The main character is amidst a fight. He thinks of the past when he wanted to give up everything because of the struggle, but now he has figured out how he can correct everything as we see him flanked and backed up by everyone. He says that if anyone ever calls him wrong, he will just say that he did it to survive. Then the scene moves into a school where we see a boy sitting down. The boy says that he plans to end himself soon. However, before he does so, he wants to write down about his damned school life. We see a bunch of kids singing happy birthday to the boy while stomping him down. They beat him, Yim Da-jun, down hard and made him eat up dirty cake from the ground. They humiliate him and take a picture with him while doing so. Da-jun writes this down in his note. We then see more scenes from that day, as the bully Doyen and his buddies bully Da-jun some more and tell him to bring another cake tomorrow to celebrate his next year's birthday in advance. The class bell rings and Doyen and his friends leave quickly to catch the class and not get chewed up by the teacher. Meanwhile, Da-jun slowly crawls his way back up and slowly makes his way back to the class, where he is scolded by his teacher for being late. We see students around Da-jun make fun of his situation as they speculate correctly about him getting bullied again. One student also says that Da-jun should end his life instead of bearing with this and have a good laugh about it. Da-jun writes it all down and says that he would get first place for writing a final will if this was a competition. He then speculates how doing this will mess up Doyen's life forever. He says that despite the fact that he won't be able to see it with his own two eyes, he is still happy from the thought of being able to mess up Doyen's life. He thinks how his family would react to him taking his own life. He thinks that his brother, a study addict, will still be studying with flashcards at his funeral. His sister will still be on her phone, and his parents won't really care much about him because he isn't really good at anything. However, he thinks that he should still inform his family and say his final goodbye. During the family dinner, Da-jun asks his sister where their mom is. She says that she isn't home yet. Da-jun, however, goes forward with his decision to say his final goodbye. He tells his dad that he is sorry for being a nuisance to them, but his dad doesn't want to hear it and tells him to move out of the way as he was blocking the TV. Da-jun is shocked, but he focuses on the TV. On the TV, we see a case of a high school student taking the lives of his bullies. Da-jun is immediately tuned into the news as we see that the kid was severely bullied at school. We then see the kid getting interviewed by the media where he is seen to be very proud of what he did to his bullies. He names them all and says that they are all monsters who humiliated him and made fun of his family. He says that he doesn't care one bit about what people say and that he did it because he had to survive. He further goes on to encourage fellow victims to step up and do the exact same thing as him. Da-jun's father thinks the kid is crazy for doing so, and despite the gullies making fun of him, he doesn't have any right to end them at all. However, Da-jun is fully consumed by the speech and is inspired by it. Later on, we see Da-jun in his bedroom, saying that he shouldn't end himself, he did nothing wrong. Instead, he should end Doyen and his friends for bullying him so much. He brings out a screwdriver and starts stabbing his pillow to practice what he wants to do to Doyen. The next day at school, Da-jun has brought the screwdriver along. However, he can't muster up the courage to go ahead with it. He says to himself that despite practicing, he lacks what he needs to do it. He says that he won't do it unless Doyen bullies him again, and just at that moment, Doyen comes to the scene and holds him by the back of the neck. He asks Da-jun if he has brought the cake along with him. Da-jun grabs a hold of his screwdriver and thinks of doing what he planned. Doyen keeps on pushing his buttons and asks whether he brought the cake to celebrate the birthday and gets more and more mad as Da-jun doesn't answer. Da-jun finally tries to go for it, but when he looks at Doyen, his body freezes up and he is scared. Da-jun says that he has a conditional fear of Doyen, and he is scared whenever he sees Doyen's face. He is so scared that instead of attacking with the screwdriver, he tries his best to hide it as we see Doyen punching him in the classroom. He then says that the party isn't over for Da-jun, and he wants Da-jun to see him after school. After school, Da-jun goes to the backyard with Doyen and his friends. Doyen says that they've bought tons of stuff to celebrate Da-jun's birthday. The stuff he bought includes liquor, and Da-jun tells Doyen that he can't drink it. Doyen then tells that he must consume or it will be Da-jun's last day. They then make a disgusting cocktail of liquor, dirty socks, dirt, spit, and other stuff and ask Da-jun to drink it. Da-jun refuses and gets beaten up badly for it. With no option left, Da-jun gulps it down. However, being unable to hold it in, he vomits. They make fun of him and Doyen says that he must gulp it down fully before they stop. And so they keep on making the cocktail and have him drink it, however, he keeps vomiting. At one point, they run out of liquor, so Doyen tells his lackeys to go ahead and buy it again, as he won't let Dajun go until he drinks it all. As they go, Doyen tries to pour alcohol onto Dajun's face, unable to take it anymore and on the verge of it all ending. Dajun pushes away Doyen, breaking the bottle of alcohol and making a run for it. He doesn't know why he is running, but he still goes for it. However, Doyen soon catches up and beats up Dajun again. He delivers several punches to his face and grabs Dajun's hair and drags him back. As he is being dragged back, Dajun finally decides to do something. As he can't attack Doyen because he is afraid of his face, he can surely do something when he is facing Doyen's back. And so at the right moment, Dajun pushes Doyen away. Doyen is angry, however. Before he can do something, a car runs over Doyen. As everyone surrounds Doyen and people try to make sense of what happened, Dajun makes a run for his life, afraid of getting caught. Later, we see Dajun, all crumbled up on his bed, being scared about what he has supposedly done. He can't digest the fact that his push might have just ended Lee Doyen. He is all tensed up and scared that this is the end of his normal life. The next day, we see a very scared Dajun go to school. He is scared on just what the reaction will be if people know about what transpired between him and Doyen, if they're gonna attack him or not. As he enters the classroom, he is afraid that the police is behind the door, waiting to capture him for his crime, but to his surprise, it was business as usual. Nothing had changed except for the fact that the seat that was once occupied by Lee Doyen is empty now. Right after, we see a teacher walking in and announcing to everyone about the accident of Lee Doyen. He says that the accident has caused Lee Doyen to go into a comatose state, and that the accident was because of Lee Doyen walking on the road carelessly without thinking of the ongoing traffic. He says that everyone who wants to visit Doyen should do so at the hospital. Everyone is talking about it, whereas Dajun is conflicted and paranoid. He can't believe that he has supposedly gotten away with what he has done. His moral conscience is telling him to hand himself over to the police for trying to end the life of Lee Doyen, but he wants to spend a few days normally before doing so. The day at school goes by normally, class as usual, having lunch at lunchtime and reading novels at break time between classes. It was as if he was back to middle school again, where he used to do the same but couldn't do so in high school because of Lee Doyen's constant bullying of him and berating of his family. Dajun tears up thinking how he was not allowed to live a normal life as a high schooler because of Doyen. A few of his classmates come and playfully accuse Dajun of being the one who pushed off Doyen into the truck's path. They say so because they've seen Dajun leaving with Doyen's group that day. However, one of them refutes the theory, simply citing that someone as cowardly as Dajun can never do something like that in any way. Dajun feels kind of relieved and thinks that being a coward potentially saved him from a solid accusation. He is still being eaten up from the inside for what he had done, but seeing how those kids, who would usually bully him, are now ignoring him, and how most kids who were also bullied are living a normal day, makes him think maybe it wasn't such a bad thing to push him off. However, we then see a police car arrive to the school grounds. Everyone is scared or is pretending to be scared in a comedic way because they know that they must have come to arrest someone for what went down with Doyen. Dajun is scared and his worst nightmares come to fruition when someone says that the principal has called him to the school office. There at the office, he is immediately put in handcuffs as the police say that he is under arrest for attempting to end the life of Lee Doyen. The teachers ask how and why is it going down this way, as the police had told them that Doyen's accident was caused by him jaywalking, but the police tell them that it was because they hadn't seen Dajun in the truck's black box, and after inspecting a local CCTV camera's footage, they found out that Dajun was the one who pushed Doyen into harm's way. The teachers are devastated and they ask Dajun just why had he done what he had done. Why couldn't he continue to be a normal kid? Dajun has no answers for this as he is devastated himself. He thinks that after all, there is a God and he has to pay for what he did. Someone like him can never be happy. We then get to know that Dajun was put into 2 years of probation instead of being sent into a juvenile correction center. Him being bullied, having written a note which indicated that he was going to end himself, and the fact that he was under the influence of alcohol, all contributed to him getting off rather easily. However, he is now ostracized and can't live a normal life. His connection with his family sucks and he feels guilty for what he has done. He goes to school and finds out that he has been expelled for doing what he did. As he walks out, He hears his classmates talk about how what he did was wrong, and despite Doyen bullying him, he can't be finishing Doyen off for it. Some even say that Doyen was right in bullying him. This angers Dajuan, as he can't fathom how people who never went through the bullying he did are judging him so nonchalantly. After that, he goes back to the only place he can go back, home. However, upon arriving at his house, Dajuan is immediately told to leave by his father. Heartbroken, Dajuan leaves the house while crying. He is drenched by the rain as he walks the night street, and then he runs into the friends of Doyen, who bullied Dajuan alongside Doyen in the past. The bullies are angered and want to take revenge on Dajuan for what he did to Doyen. They viciously beat down Dajuan, telling him how wrong he was and that despite Doyen being a lowlife, Dajuan has no right to do what he did. One of them gets on top of Dajuan and rains down a barrage of punches on him, leaving him a bloody mess. He tells Dajuan to apologize for what he did. Dajuan, beaten up, can't believe that he is suddenly being told to apologize for what he did after being bullied so much. He can't believe how he is the bad guy all of a sudden for pushing Doyen once when Doyen has repeatedly pushed him off a metaphorical cliff, making his life a mess. Dajuan, unable to control his anger, gets angry and tells everyone that he won't apologize because they had bullied him first. The bully is angered and he keeps beating Dajuan up, asking him how dare he speak in a rebellious way. Unable to take all of this, Dajuan gets angry and picks up a piece of brick laying beside him. He uses the piece of brick and beats up the bully in a very bad way, leaving him laying in a pile of his own blood. Dajuan decides that he won't regret anything he did again, and that he will continue to do so. He will continue to end others to survive himself, but such actions from Dajuan makes no real difference to the perception of him to the other bullies. Instead of being scared, they're mad at him for standing up to them and beating up one of their friends. They tell Dajuan that just because they used umbrellas to beat him up first doesn't mean that they don't have other weapons, and they go on and start attacking Dajuan. The group of people surround Dajuan and then start raining down attacks on Dajuan. They beat him up pretty badly as they outnumber him by a lot and have a wider selection of weaponry. Dajuan is defiant though, trying his best to fight off his bullies by using the brick he had in his hand. He attacks one of them, but his comeback is quickly subdued by the other bullies as they raise the intensity of their attacks. Eventually, their beatdown sends Dajuan down to the ground, where the beating continues. They try to get Dajuan to concede, however. Dajuan is still angry and he won't give up no matter what. As the ruthless beatdown continues, a random homeless-looking man arrives to the scene. He tells everyone to not make such a scene at his home. The bullies make fun of him for calling the construction site his home and say that he should leave without interfering in their business. He said that it is indeed their home and he came back to eat. He also says that the brick in Dajuan's hand is his pillow, but now there's blood on it. The bullies are livid from such nonchalant behavior from the man, so they get mad and threaten him to leave. The man quickly accepts and says he will leave for another one of his homes. The bullies make fun of him for leaving cowardly, and as they try to focus on Dajuan, the homeless-looking man returns. He throws his cup of instant ramen on one of the bullies as a diversion to quickly get into his rhythm and deliver a solid jumping kick to the head. The fight continues as the bullies try to attack him. However, it seems that they're no match for the skills of this random guy who came out of nowhere. He delivers a leg kick to one of the bullies and delivers a solid right-handed punch to another guy. He then follows it up with a knee to the midsection on one of them. Another bully comes and tells the guy to leave his friend, so he kicks the guy he had held and sends him flying back onto his friend. He then attacks that bully by using his fingers to attack his eyes. We then see another bully with a stick trying to attack him for looking down onto them. However, he brings out a supposed weapon wrapped around with a paper and asks him if he still wants to continue. The bully is visibly scared because the weapon looks like a knife. He then makes fun of him for being scared now after they see his weapons, even though they have the numbers and weapons advantage. Then it is revealed that the weapon he had wasn't a knife, but instead chopsticks wrapped around with paper. This shocks the bully. However, he has no time to get back in the zone as the homeless man delivers a hard kick to the jaw. Dajuan is amazed by how a guy like him took down Doyen's crew with such utter ease. He feels satisfied by it. The bullies run away as the man makes fun of them for abandoning the friendship. However, Dajuan stands there and thanks the guy for saving his life. The guy is annoyed by Dajuan's presence. Dajuan asks for the guy to teach him how to fight, but he wants to have none of it. He is instead worried about not having anything to eat. Dajun tells him that he will buy him ramen, so they go to the shop where Dajun feeds him and tells him his story. The guy praises Dajun for standing up and taking care of Lee Doyen. He says that people like Doyen don't understand normally, so they need to be taken care of in such a manner. Dajun takes this chance to ask for his answer to his previous request. He answers it by saying no. Dajun is devastated and promises to buy him more food in the future, but he still won't budge. He tells Dajun that he isn't made for fighting and that he can't hang with the bullies. He tells Dajun that he isn't one for street life and that he should go back home. Dajun is still adamant on learning how to fight as he wants to take proper revenge on his bullies. So Dajun starts stalking the homeless-looking man from the next onwards. He starts following everything he does, step by step. He begins by following his routine of wearing clothes from the trash to get used to street life. He then follows his eating habits, where he brings a pack of rice and uses cat food as his side dish. Dajun tries to do so as well, but he gets caught and gets chased off for stealing cat food. Later on, he sees the man sleeping at a children's playground where all the kids are too afraid to even go near him. Dajun tries that as well, but the kids don't fear him and instead start playing on top of him. Dajun starts losing hope in the guy, but then he sees him fighting a bunch of thugs on the street and regains confidence in him. Despite how he is a very skilled fighter. The guy eventually gets annoyed by Dajun stalking him so obviously and calls him out. He asks Dajun if he is going to keep following him to learn how to fight. Dajun says he will keep following him. Then, to Dajun's surprise, the homeless man agrees to teaching him how to fight, but on one condition. He points to one of the bullies from the Doyen squad nearby and tells Dajun to beat him up. Dajun can't do it. He says that Dajun did well when he used a brick to smash one of the bullies earlier, but what he has been doing isn't called fighting. It's merely him trying to survive, so if he really wants to take revenge, he needs to turn the tables on the bullies. Then we see Dajun being prepared to jump the bully from behind and start fighting him. Dajun says to himself that he was the prey, but from this moment onwards, he is the predator. We then see a flashback of when Dajun and the bully Yonghyun was in school. Yonghyun apologizes to Dajun, telling him he was sorry for making him strip in front of girls, throwing water onto him, etc., etc. He says he is really sorry for bullying him. Dajun was shocked by this sudden apologetic behavior, but his classmates tell him to accept the apology because it is so sincere. Yonghyun offers his hand in apology and asks Dajun to grab it. However, upon grabbing it, Yonghyun crushes Dajun's hand with sheer force. Yonghyun, being a baseball athlete who is well built, has a grip strength of 84 kilos, which leaves Dajun screaming in agony, and Yonghyun made fun of it, saying that he feels like a new man after apologizing and promises to apologize like this to Dajun every day. Back to the current timeline, we see Dajun seething in anger, thinking of those times from the past. He controls his steps and jumps down from above on the unsuspecting Yonghyun, who is on a call. Dajun lands a sort of stomp kick variation which sends Yonghyun flying. The homeless man is kind of impressed by it, and Dajun is ecstatic because it felt nice and he can't believe how easily he took out his enemy. However, at that very moment, Yonghyun punches Dajun very hard and sends him flying back. Yonghyun can't believe how someone like Dajun was the one who decided to sneak attack him. He attacks Dajun viciously and asks him if he didn't get enough of a beatdown from the construction site. The homeless man is disappointed by all this. He thought Dajun really had something, but it all turned out to be nothing. Yonghyun makes fun of Dajun, says he never hit Dajun with full force and that he only goes all out against athlete, but now he will attack Dajun with his full power. Dajun, however, doesn't give up and uses a bag full of trash to swing and hit Junghyun's face. Yonghyun blocked the attack, however. This is Dajun's shot to attack him while his vision is blurred and tries to land a takedown on Yonghyun. However, it doesn't work out for Dajun as Yonghyun blocks the tackle and attacks him repeatedly. Yonghyun pushes Dajun against a wall and tries to hit him, but Dajun tries to poke his eyes out. The homeless man smiles a little, seeing how Dajun is literally copying his fighting style from the construction site. However, he says that Dajun isn't good at using that style, as we see Yonghyun crushing Dajun's finger for trying to poke his eyes. Yonghyun asks Dajun why he is doing this, why he feels the need to attack them, and if he feels cheated. Dajun says to himself that he indeed feels cheated because they are the ones behind his expelling. He says that if he could, he won't let end each and every one of the bullies. He then thinks of what the homeless man said to him when he said that he can't beat up someone like Jung-hyun. He told him there is a chance because in a street fight there's no tactics. Jung-hyun is one of the people who ruined his life, so there is no need to hold back. He should go all out. Jung-hyun tries to him again but stops after seeing his glare. It pisses Jung-hyun off how he won't stop glaring. Da-joon, taking the advice from the homeless man to his heart, brings out a knife-like object covered in paper and holds it against Jung-hyun's body. Jung-hyun is taken aback. However, he tells Da-joon that he doesn't believe that a loser like Da-joon has the guts to show up with a knife, but when he holds it, he gets scared by the feel of it. Da-joon tells him to hold it hard with his grip strength, just like how he used to hold his hands all the time, and kicks him in the gut. The homeless man says that Da-joon is crazier than he thought he was, but is worried if Da-joon is using a fake knife like he was, but the reaction from Jung-hyun says something else. On the other side, we see Jung-hyun wondering just what had gone wrong for Da-joon to go full out crazy and bring a knife to a fight. He makes a run for it but ends up going the wrong way and is followed by Da-joon. As Da-joon approaches him with the knife, he is in doubt. Will Da-joon really go for it and end him? Jong-hyun, who was backing off, gets caught by Da-joon with a strike to the top of his head with the underpart of the dagger. Da-joon can't be stopped. He is angry and he keeps throwing kicks and punches with no stop. He throws a wild cross right to the upper body of Jung-hyun and then creates distance by delivering several front push kicks to him. Jung-hyun is mad and he can't believe it that he is being beat up by someone like Da-joon. However, there is not a lot he can do because of the knife that Da-joon is wielding. Da-joon then hits Jung-hyun with another front push kick. However, this time Jung-hyun tries to retreat out of this. He grabs his ribs and says Da-joon to not attack him anymore because the recent kick just hit him in the injured area and might have caused the breaking of his ribs. He admits his fault and asks Da-joon to calm down. This pisses off Da-joon beyond limits, as he kicks him in the supposedly broken ribs again, while tauntingly asking if Jung-hyun wants him to stop. Da-joon says that Jung-hyun has no idea just what kind of a life he has had because of Jung-hyun and his bully friends. Da-joon keeps unloading with the covered knife. By striking Jung-hyun over and over again, Jung-hyun apologizes and says that it was all his fault. Da-joon says that no one listened to him. He was beaten unconscious with punches and kicks, was made to do very embarrassing things. Yet when he gained back consciousness, it was him who had to apologize to Jung-hyun and his friends, telling them that it was his fault despite of Da-joon being the victim. Someone like Jung-hyun has no idea what Da-joon had to go through in his life every day, every night, wanting to end his life, so he has no right to apologize and ask Da-joon to stop. The homeless man, who was observing the fight, sees this and thinks about how impressive it is for Da-joon to beat up his bully. However, as he talks about his old memories, Da-joon slowly starts breaking down and stops attacking Jung-hyun, dropping his guard. However, Jung-hyun was waiting for this exact opportunity, and thus he uses this chance to grab a hold of Da-joon's arm and lock in a sort of jujitsu hold to disarm the knife from Da-joon's arm and takes control of it. Now, Jung-hyun has the control over the knife and he confronts Da-joon by saying that now he has no reason to hold back and get hit by Da-joon because the knife is with him now. Jung-hyun says that he always knew that a coward like Da-joon could never use a knife and could never stab him. However, he is not a coward like him and he can very much stab him with the knife. Jung-hyun then stabs in the knife into Da-joon's leg. However, the knife doesn't penetrate the skin and flesh of Da-joon. Jung-hyun then uncovers the knife from the paper to find out that it was just a steel ruler scale. The homeless man is impressed by this act of intelligence by Da-joon, as successfully manages to deceive Jung-hyun into thinking it's a knife. Jung-hyun can't believe it that he got tricked by a ruler. Da-joon taunts Jung-hyun by saying that even though Jung-hyun called him a coward, it was Jung-hyun himself who got scared by a ruler. Jung-hyun then starts a ground and pound assault of Da-joon. He keeps throwing non-stop punches to his face from a top-up position, getting Da-joon all bloodied up, and he has no intention to stop. He is mad and asks how dare someone like Da-joon tried playing a trick on him. After all, he is the baseball team's psycho. However, at that very moment, we see the homeless man walk up to Jung-hyun from behind and drop his drink on top of Jung-hyun's head and say that he doesn't think that Jung-hyun is a psycho and that he has a very long way to go before he can even become one. This angers Jung-hyun as the homeless man interfered in his fight and is now insulting him. So he gets up from Da-joon and approaches the homeless man with dangerous intent. However, to the homeless man, this is merely a joke and he delivers a side kick to Jung-hyun's chin to knock his lights out. The homeless man then helps Dejun recover and asks him if he has any idea on what would have happened to him if he had not interfered. He then tells Dejun that he tried well and almost got the better of his bully. However, he can't teach him how to fight because that was what they agreed upon. This breaks down Dejun as he doesn't know what to do anymore. He gets mad at himself for losing control of the situation and dropping his guard. He thinks nothing has changed for him since he was a victim of bullying and that he still is a loser. He violently thumps down his fists on the road in anger. The homeless man notices this and asks Dejun if he really is that desperate and serious about learning to fight and getting stronger. He then offers to give Dejun a second chance, and if he passes there, the homeless man will teach him how to fight. That being said, the upcoming mission for Dejun to accomplish will be way harder than the first one thrown at him. He then asks Dejun to follow him. After a while, we see them walk into a new area. Dejun tells the homeless man that they've been walking for ages now and the homeless man has not been telling him where they're going. He has no idea what is up with this neighborhood as he is new here. The homeless man asks Dejun if he thinks the bullies of his school are the worst humanity can offer, to which Dejun says they indeed are. The homeless man smirks and says that they're not even close to being the worst. In fact, there are way more worse people than them. For example, people so bad that even the schools couldn't control them and they had to move away from the normal school life. He says the people of that kind all gather in this area and live here in a much different and violent life than what he can imagine. Dejun is scared and asks him why he would bring Dejun to such a dangerous place, to which the homeless man says that Dejun has also been expelled from his school and kicked out of his house, and for him to live in the street and toughen up, he should learn to live here in this neighborhood. The homeless man then kicks Dejun into a dark room and tells him to survive this room if he wants the homeless man to teach him how to fight and live the street life. Dejun is left shocked and overwhelmed as he looks up to see very intimidating figures surrounding him. Now Dejun needs to figure out how he will survive in such an hard environment with dangerous people surrounding him and looking to get him. Then we see Dejun on his knees, being interrogated by the group of people living in that home. The red-haired guy asks Dejun if he needs to live in this house and survive to learn how to fight. Dejun says that is the case. He then asks just who asked him to do this and dumped him here unceremoniously. Dejun tells them that it was the homeless-looking man, Cho Hang-il. They are then really disappointed by this thing that Cho Hang-il has done. The red-haired guy then asks Dejun if knows how to fight, to which Dejun says that he can't fight. They can tell that he can't from his appearance, so they ask if there is anything he is even good at, to which Dejun also says no. The girl asks Dejun if he has ever worked somewhere, to which Dejun once again says that he hasn't and doesn't know how to work. The red-haired man is frustrated because Dejun can't do anything for them and is basically useless to them as an asset. The man says that he has no idea why Cho Hang-il would choose to let someone as useless as Dejun into their group. However, they can't even kick him out of the house either because Cho Hang-il sent him here after all. The other person then says that it is too late for them to ponder about what to do with him and that they should at least let him sleep over for the night. The man then grabs Dejun's hand and takes him to a room. He opens a door and tells him to sleep in that room. Dejun is left flabbergasted as the room he has been told to sleep in is a laundry room which is already more than half occupied by a washing machine. The red-haired man then tells Dejun that there is no reason for him to be so overwhelmed and grateful yet, because they're not going to let him live for free. He says that if Dejun really has no real abilities to help their group, he can at least put his body to work, so Dejun should look forward to the upcoming day. We then see that Dejun is doing the entire house's work on his own from the next morning onwards. He is seen washing the bathroom and toilet. He is seen carrying plants in the garden to help the girl. It's all very hard work, however, he can't oppose it because at least he is getting to live there and get food to eat, which is a lot better than going to the school or living on the streets. We then see the group having good food together for lunch, whereas Dejun is seen alone inside the small laundry room, eating much less and cheaper food. We also learn that Dejun has started exploring the outside neighborhood as he has to go out quite often to buy groceries and run errands. Dejun says that this place is a lot tougher and harsher than anything he has ever seen. It's a crime-filled city and it seems like all the gangsters live there. Dejun mistakenly makes eye contact with one of the gangsters while walking home with groceries, which pisses off the gangster. He approaches Dejun and asks him why he looked at them and accuses him of staring at his girlfriend's leg. Dejun thinks that he really must be a bully magnet because this always happens to him. He threatens Dejun, saying that he will let him go if he bows down and apologizes to them, because if not, he will teach Dejun a lesson. Dejun stays calm and quiet, not saying anything but getting angry inside. He realizes that the guy is showing off to his girlfriend and it pisses him off, but he keeps quiet. However, the gangster is angered by it and he tries to attack Dejun. Dejun says to himself that he would normally take this and move on. However, this is what Cho Hang-il wanted him to survive in, so he will no longer hold back, and he channels his anger to get into a fighting stance and ready to throw a punch. The gangster is shocked, takes a few steps back, but that is because the red-haired man is behind Dejun. The man, named Cha Dae-yob, asks the gangster why they've been messing with his houseboy and pushes the gangster with his shoulder. He then takes away Dejun from there and tells him to not waste time outside if he is done buying groceries. He should instead come back and start cleaning the veranda. The gangster is angered by this, but his friends try to warn him, saying that Cha Dae-yob is a dangerous man with gnarly rumors to his name. Also, he has Kim Taek with him. They're Cho Hang-il's crew and shouldn't be messed with. However, the gangster is angry and doesn't want to be a coward like his buddies, and he rushes to sneak attack Cha Dae-yob with a knife. However, Dae-yob sidesteps and uses the guy's own momentum to slam him down hard on the road, using a judo technique. Cha Dae-yob then asks them if anyone else wants to fight, to which all the goons run away. Yim Dejun is left in awe, as he realizes that Dae-yob is just as strong as Hang-il. He wonders if all of Hang-il's friends are just as strong as this. We then see the humiliated gangster, who is back up from the attack of Dae-yob, banging his head on a wall, in anger as his friends try to stop him. He is mad beyond limits and he vows to finish off everyone in that group. He doesn't care if they're friends with the infamous Cho Hang-il. Then we see an unknown shady figure walk up to them and ask if they're really serious about finishing off Cho Hang-il's crew. The shady man offers to help them in their quest to finish off the crew if they really want to do it. Later the scene changes and we see Cho Hang-il's group sleep together in a room, while Dejun sleeps in his laundry room. That is when we see the gangster who wanted revenge come to their doorstep with a cylinder full of harmful gas. He then leaks that gas using a pipe into the room, which slowly starts suffocating all of the Cho Hang-il crew. Dejun wakes up and smells something weird. He isn't affected much by it because he was in a different room. So he gets out and feels the room filled with harmful gas and everyone choking out. Dejun dashes forward and pushes open the door to let out the air. However, the door smashes into the gangster and Dejun recognizes him. The gangster makes a run for it and escapes. Dejun thinks to himself that these people don't really rate him. They make fun of him for being useless, and while that is true, he still wants to do something for them. So, Yim Dejun runs himself, trying to chase down the gangster who wanted revenge on them. We see the gangster thinking he has created enough distance as he stops to catch a breather. He doesn't understand why Dejun wasn't affected by the gas, wondering if he sleeps in a different room than the Cho Hang-il crew. However, just at that time, we see Yim Dejun arrive to scene, determined to beat up scum like the one ahead of him. He tells him to stop as he gets ready for some action. We then see a flashback to a few days before the gas attack on the Choi Hang-il crew, where we see Yim Dejun standing on the rooftop with Cha Dae-yob. Cha Dae-yob asks Yim Dejun just why is he pestering him. Dejun tells Dae-yob that he wants to learn how to fight from him. Dejun was impressed by how Dae-yob took out the gangster from before with a single blow, and he wants to learn that and be just as effective as him. Cha Dae-yob is left wondering just what he will do with this guy. He wishes that Cho Hang-il would just come and take Dejun away from him, because even though he wants to learn how to fight, he can't because of his lack of talent and physicality. However, then Dae-yob gives Dejun a skipping rope. Dejun is confused with what he received, but Dae-yob informs him that weaklings like him need to train a lot to get better at fighting. Dejun asks Dae-yob how many he needs to do, to which Dae-yob dismissively tells him to do however many he wants. Dejun then asks Dae-yob how many he is capable of doing, to which Dae-yob says that he can easily do 100,000 repetitions. Back when he was still working out crazily, he could do that much with relative ease. This leaves Yim Dejun confused, as 100,000 repetitions of jump ropes is a lot. The next day, we see a yawning Cha Dae-yob walking up to the rooftop, wondering what is Yim Dejun up to and where he is, as he hasn't seen him since the night before. After all, Dejun didn't even do the dishes for the day. Then Dae-yob realizes that he had told Dejun to do jump rope. He wonders if the guy is really doing 100,000 repetitions. After all, he was only bluffing when he said that he could do that many with ease. However, he feels that Dejun isn't that stupid, or is he? Then Dae-yeob goes into shock as he sees an exhausted Dejun skipping ropes while looking more like a zombie on autopilot than a human being. Dae-yeob wonders if he really stayed up all night to do this and asks Dejun why he is doing this stupid thing, as it is basically countless. Dejun barely speaks from the breathlessness and huffingly speaks to say that he still has 47,000 repetitions to go. He is doing it because he wants to be as strong as Dae-yeob. Dae-yeob is shocked, but he doesn't show it and shrugs it off. Dae-yeob then asks Dejun if he really thinks that doing 100,000 repetitions of jump ropes will make him as strong as him and suggests Dajun to quit this attempt and go back to doing dishes. He thinks to himself why Dejun is trying so hard to fight. The scene then changes back to present time where we see Dejun fighting with the gangster who wanted revenge from Cho Hang-il's crew. Dejun tries to hit him with a right hook. However, the gangster blocks it with his forearm before hitting Dejun with a wicked uppercut to the chin and knocking him down. However, Dejun doesn't stay down for long as he gets back up again and tries to stop the gangster from getting away. The gangster is shocked by how Dejun keeps getting back up over and over again despite being hit down by him so much. The gangster tries to make a run for it, but Dejun chases right behind him and almost grabs him back. But the gangster anticipates it and he ends up hitting Dejun with a hard elbow, sending him down on the floor again. The gangster makes a run to save himself again. He says that he can't waste his time here and he needs to leave the town as soon as possible because he failed to take revenge on Cho Hang-il's crew. So this means the man who helped him in getting this is going to be mad. He is already a target for the Cho gang because of this. However, as he tries to run down the stairs, Dejun gets right back up again, and he grabs his leg and trips him into tumbling down the stairs, stopping him and hurting him. Dejun then gets ready to take control and tells the gangster that he has nowhere to go anymore and asks him what he meant when he said that he is a target of the Cho gang. However, the tables turn on Dejun pretty quickly when the gangster pulls out a knife to attack. Dejun is frozen and he says that he finally feels what it is like when someone points a knife at you, remembering about a time when he pointed a knife, albeit fake, at Jung-hyun. However, this knife is real and the gangster is unhinged. He will do anything to get out of this predicament, as he is really scared of getting caught by the Cho gang. He swings the knife to land a cut on Dejun. However, Dejun is capable of somewhat dodging these attacks. However, as he is backed against a wall and he trips down and falls. The gangster then tries to use his knife to stab Dejun to finish him off for good. However, Dejun uses his wits to use a concrete tile to block it. However, the tile isn't very strong and is broken into two pieces easily. And now, with nothing to help him block the attack, Dejun is on the verge of getting stabbed by this psycho gangster. The scenes then change to the house, where we see that the Cho Hang-il crew is already woken up. They're trying to regroup, wondering what caused them to feel so breathless and dizzy and who was the one behind it. They assume that it must have been the gangsters from before, trying to take revenge on them. Then they wonder who saved them from choking out on the gas, and how they did it. Cha Dae-yeob interrupts the conversation and says that it was Yim Dejun who helped them and saved their lives. The others then say that the people who attacked them must be dangerous people with dangerous intentions. So what is Dejun thinking when he went after them? Because he will end up being all finished when he tries to fight those people. However, Cha Dae-yeob assertively says that Dejun will survive. Then we see a flashback of when Dejun saved them. Dae-yeob was half awake, so Dejun tells him that now the group owes them one because he almost choked out himself trying to drag everyone from that gas-filled room, and that he has saved their lives by doing so Dae-yeob should teach him how to fight. Dae-yeob is speaking gibberish, so Dejun wonders if Dae-yeob is even awake enough to understand him. However, he keeps on going as he asks Dae-yeob to divide the house chore fairly and that he will also take a part-time job to support them and that he wants to be let in on the meat-eating parties they do. Dae-yeob refuses, but Dejun realizes that Dae-yeob is awake enough to understand, so he puts out a deal where he promises to bring back the man who attacked them with gas by himself, and if he manages to do so, Dae-yeob will accept him and train him properly. He then forcefully takes his hand and does the promise handshake. Back to the current time, Dae-yeob explains this to them and says that no matter what, Yim Dejun will never go down without giving the fight of his life. Back to the fight scene, we see that the knife stab from the gangster was stopped by Dejun by using his bare hands. This shocks the gangster as he can't believe how crazy Dejun is for doing that. Then Dejun speaks up, asking the gangster if that's all he had when he said that he would be finishing off Dejun, before getting up and pushing him back hard while still grabbing the knife. He pushes him to the point that the gangster's back is against the edge of the bridge they're fighting on. However, the gangster predicts that Dejun is simply trying to get leverage so that he can use the same flip slam technique as Dae-yob before. However, he is wrong as Dejun explains that he ain't trying to flip him, as he then aggressively pushes himself onto the gangster, sending both men tumbling down from a big height, putting them both at the risk for their lives. As they fall down, Yim Dejun looks determined to gravely hurt the gangster. However, the gangster is shocked by the sheer insanity of the move Yim Dejun is pulling off at that moment. They both hit the concrete wall around the bridge, bouncing off of it several times as they tumble down to the ground. The knife falls off from the gangster's hand upon the constant impact of bouncing off on the concrete. They both eventually have a hard fall at the ground. However, Dejun gathers himself and is ready to take out the gangster with one last blow. He takes a big chunky brick he found laying on the road and is fully intent to end it all with a head to the gangster's head. However, he finds out that the gangster is already down and out from the blow he received upon hitting the ground and his head hitting the pole. Dejun is overjoyed because for the first time in his life, he has won a fight. He has just outdone and beaten a gangster who he could have never even imagined about beating. He gets confident and thinks that maybe he has a natural talent for fighting when he suddenly notices that the knife that had slipped out of the gangster's hand has gone on to penetrate his abdomen. As he collapses, he just curses his bad luck. Then the scene changes, and we see that Yim Dejun is back up, but he is in the hospital, surrounded by the Cho Hang Il crew, who were waiting for him to regain his consciousness. Apparently, the Cho Hang Il crew had found him lying there unconscious, after which they picked Dejun up and took him to the hospital. However, the gangster who attacked them with gas was already gone by them. Perhaps he ran away. The doctor said that Dejun's knife wound was shallow and nothing serious, and that the actual problem was the high-impact fall, which had exhausted him to the point of collapsation. Cha Dae-yob tells Dejun to man up as his injuries weren't serious and that he will be fine in no time. He also tells Dejun that he doesn't need to feel down even though he lost and failed to keep his promise. However, they also decide to accept Dejun's deal with Dae-yob, where he asked for similar privileges and fight training, despite him not catching the gangster. Dae-yob tells him that despite everything, they owe him one for saving their lives and trying so hard. They also praise him for doing something so courageous as jumping off a bridge with the gangster, which is fitting of someone who was brought in by Cho Hang Il. Then we see Cho Hang Il himself at the hospital. He tells Dejun that he has learned to survive and that Dejun will soon start training to learn how to fight. However, if he doesn't want to, he is open to leaving the group. However, Dejun is determined and says that he will be starting the training as soon as he is discharged. The scene changes to where we see the Cho Hang Il crew granting one of Yim Dejun's biggest wishes other than wanting to learn how to fight, him wanting to join in with them to eat pork belly together. They are really shocked how this was one of his key wishes and how he could have asked for something way better than to eat pork belly. However, Dejun is like a man possessed. He is really excited about eating pork belly and he eats a lot of it. They're amazed by how much he likes eating pork belly. Cha Dae-yob says that by the way Dejun is eating, he is looking like they've starved him for days. This statement puts everyone in silence because they've been feeding him bad for a while after all. One of them says that they've been feeding Dejun only tuna since he came, but Dae-yob is mad because they all agreed to feeding him despite everything. Then they all collectively apologize to Dejun for feeding him bad food for so long. However, they did it because they're also runaway people with their own issues, so they can't just be treating a random somebody with equal value right after he comes to the place. Dejun then breaks into tears, saying that he didn't want to live a life like this. However, it was forced on him, and he can't believe it why he of all people needs to suffer so much. Dae-yob then asks Dejun if he feels like he is the only one with issues like this. He tells Dejun that there is not a single person here without issues. Everyone is suffering in their own way, whether that be more than him or less. He says that there are people here who don't even have a family to be kicked out of. It's that bad. However, they know that living on the street is hard, so if Dejun doesn't want to live on the streets, he is free to live in this household. Because living with punks ain't that bad either. This makes Dejun smile, and he wonders when was the last time he smiled like this. The others are also happy, but they make fun of Dae-yob afterwards for making such a melodramatic speech. That being said, the next day onwards, Life resumes for Dejun, although a bit different. He is now moved out of the laundry room and lives with the rest of them like normal. However, being cramped for space makes him think that it might not be a great thing after all. He has also started to talk a little with everyone, even though it is a bit awkward for now. The awkwardness is even more evident because of the lack of a big age difference, as the oldest one is Cho Hang-il at 19 only, whereas there are two others in the group who are the same age as Dejun at 17. The household chores have also been somewhat divided. However, everyone else has a job to do to bring in money, except for Dejun and Cho Hang-il. They're both jobless and are left at home to do most of the work, but Hang-il is lazy, so he doesn't want to do chores. He instead tells Dejun it is fine to slack off and to train in fighting instead. However, that doesn't sit well with Cha Dae-yob, who kicks Dejun out of the place and tells him that it is not fine to slack off and that he should try to find a part-time job and earn for the household. Dejun then finds a part-time job at a pizza shop. However, he doesn't fit in well. Life is tough due to the rough customers and the overly harsh boss. So much so that he doesn't want to work there and thinks of quitting because people aren't as nice as the runaway family of his. That being said, the boss daughter, Nian, walks into the place and Dejun is left stunned by her beauty. However, he realizes that girls aren't into him and that he shouldn't focus on that, but the girl looks at him and calls him cute. This melts Dejun, and from here on out, this girl will change his life forever. The scene then changes, where we see Cho Hang-il beat up a goon, asking him the whereabouts of someone. He then tells the goon to tell someone to come to him with the gangster who attacked them with gas, or else he will go to them and finish them off for good.